Am I the asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend after she quit her job? I, 27M, recently broke up with my girlfriend, Lisa, 25F, after a 2-year living arrangement and 3 years of being together. The breakup has been weighing on me because I've been getting mixed reactions from friends, some of whom think I'm in the wrong. I want to lay out everything that happened to see if I'm really the jerk in this situation. Lisa and I met at work, where I was her team lead. We both had good jobs that paid well above the industry average, and for a while, life was great. We were ambitious, supportive of each other, and everything seemed to click. About 14 months ago, Lisa made the decision to resign from her job after a series of clashes with our manager. Now, our manager wasn't the easiest person to work for. He played favorites and could be an ass to anyone who wasn't in his inner circle. Lisa couldn't stand the environment anymore and told me she wanted to quit. I supported her decision at the time. I could tell how unhappy she was, and I figured she needed time to regroup. I told her I'd cover all the bills while she figured out her next move. At first, I didn't think much of it. Lisa seemed relieved and told me she'd start looking for a new job soon. I encouraged her to take the time she needed and even suggested she explore something she was truly passionate about. But as the weeks turned into months, I noticed she wasn't really making any effort to find a job. She'd say things like, "I'm just waiting for the right opportunity," or "I need to focus on myself for now." But there weren't any applications being sent out, no interviews, and no networking. I started to get concerned. At the same time, I noticed that Lisa's contributions around the house hadn't changed. When we were both working, we split the chores fairly because we both had demanding schedules. But now that she was home all day, I thought it was reasonable to ask her to take on a bit more. I wasn't expecting her to do everything, but at least enough to balance out the fact that I was working full-time and paying for everything. Every time I brought it up, though, it turned into a fight. Lisa would get defensive and say things like, "I'm not your maid," or "Just because I'm not working doesn't mean I should do everything." It felt like we were stuck in this cycle where any attempt to discuss the situation led to more tension. I started to feel the strain, not just financially, but emotionally. I felt like I was carrying the entire relationship on my back while Lisa wasn't contributing in any meaningful way. It wasn't just about the money. I wanted to feel like we were a team again, like we were both invested in building a life together. After months of trying to make it work, I finally sat Lisa down for a serious conversation. I told her how I was feeling, how the financial pressure was getting to me, and how I needed her to step up, whether that meant looking for a job or helping out more around the house. Her response? She accused me of not appreciating her and said I was being unfair. From there, things only got worse. Lisa started doing even less around the house, and any time I brought up the issue, it turned into a fight. I tried to be patient, reminding myself that she was going through a tough time, but nothing ever changed. Eventually, I realized I couldn't keep living like this. The relationship no longer felt like a partnership. It felt like I was being taken advantage of. I decided to end things. When I broke the news to Lisa, I made sure to leave enough money for her to cover rent and groceries for the next 2 months. I also moved out to make the transition easier for both of us. I didn't want to leave her in a bad spot, but I couldn't keep sacrificing my own well-being for a relationship that wasn't working. Since the breakup, some of my friends have told me I'm a jerk for expecting Lisa to work or contribute more. One even said, "You're a man. You should be able to provide without complaining." I argued back, "So does that mean Lisa should never work and should do all the housework because she's a woman?" That shut them up, but it still bothers me that people see me as the bad guy here. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect your partner to contribute to the relationship, whether financially or otherwise, but maybe I'm missing something. Am I the jerk for breaking up with Lisa? And now for the top comments. Tell your friends to support her. Call your friends out on their sexism. Tell them if she's not a maid, you're not a sugar daddy. Accusations of sexism is their attempt at manipulating OP into control. He wants out. They're trying to force him through manipulation and guilt to stay as her caretaker. She's using him, and they're attacking him. It's fucking absurd. Imagine siding with the clear-cut bad guy. OP should cut out the X, and these friends, they're all toxic. I'm sure all these friends would be telling the GF she had to support a deadbeat boyfriend indefinitely. NTA, 14 months later, is not between jobs anymore. It's become her way of life. And the fact that she won't take on all the cleaning is probably a combo of laziness, selfishness, and maybe some depression thrown in. Has she even filled out any job applications or sent out her resume? Obviously, you are not comfortable with who she has become and the additional burden on you, so I think you did the right thing. "You're the man" is a ridiculous thing to say and very sexist. Let her go find someone who is okay with her being a SAHG. BTW, how has she reacted? Best wishes. Sadly, this happened to me. My ex and I were happy. When I moved abroad, I tried everything to help him come to me, since two men can't get married in India. But he was happy doing dead-end jobs, not really trying to move forward, and daydreaming about being with me. After 2 years, I finally had to break up. Now he's driven, moved out of his parents' house, and thriving in a decent-paying job. Question: why didn't she line up another job before quitting? Did the two of you discuss it and agree she should quit, and you'd support her while she looked for another job? Did you discuss changing the split in chores before she quit? Or did she make a decision and come to you with it? OP responded, "We discussed her quitting before. It was her idea because she hated our manager, and I get her. Our manager is only kind towards 3 people, and luckily I am one of them. But we didn't talk about chores before quitting, but I expected her to get another job soon that lies within her range." Second post. Do you have a woman from your past that you never got over? One that is always in the back of your head? My first serious relationship in college. We dated for a couple years, then one weekend she got really drunk at a party. I came over to check on her the next morning and found another guy in her room. Then she just totally disappeared. I heard from mutual friends she got really into drugs and became a stripper for a while. I'm happily married now and have never pined over her, just have always wondered what happened and why. I was dating a girl. She was cool. We broke up. We broke up because I couldn't just be okay. It's hard to point to specifically what, but basically, I wanted the world to revolve around my needs. Things were not perfect, but I made them worse because of my obsession that things were not trending in the right direction. This wasn't a problem in the relationship specifically. There was a problem with my life, my job, and a lot of what was going on in my world. I needed to fix my living situation, my working situation. I needed to work on a lot of things. I needed to with communication. I needed to work on ideals. I also needed to reevaluate how I looked at and understood women. I needed to think about how I looked at relationships entirely. That's vague. Specifically, I wanted the relationship to serve me. If it wasn't meeting my needs, then I shouldn't be in the relationship. I didn't look at myself being in the relationship and working towards my needs together. I looked at the relationship being something that got in the way. That was wrong. We broke up. There are a lot of moments where I did work, and I think that I could have succeeded with her. There are many moments where I think, if I was more like, how am I now? Then we could have succeeded, could still be together. I could not have gone through so much pain, but I don't want her back. There isn't anything exceptional about her views, really any of the women I was ever with. The thing with her is that I was definitely wrong. I wanted to fix those things. The easiest signifier that I did fix those things was that she would approve, but that isn't realistic. Her approval isn't important, but it's an easy thing to obsess over. It's an easy thing to think that it is important, that her approval will mark the change that occurred within me. That isn't real. If the change happens, then the problem never occurs. It's like if I am addicted to alcohol, then bad things happen. If I show that I'm not addicted, the easiest thing is to not drink ever again, but I want to show that I'm so not addicted that I can drink whenever and stone before it becomes problematic. So Lobs V that she is the one who can approve or disapprove because she has seen both sides. It's been a long time. I married the next woman I was in a relationship with. We have been together 14 years. I think it was this ex that made me realize that my mindset was completely wrong. She is important to me because she made me realize that I didn't have the tools to be in a relationship in the long term. I would experience wanting her approval for the changes that I made. I would want her attention, but not actually. I understood that I really wanted to be a different person than I was when we were together. But if I thought about actually being together with her, there wasn't anything really actually special about it. I mean, it's nice, but so is my current relationship. But why should she occupy more space in my head? I wanted her approval more than I wanted her because I wanted to believe I changed. If I actually changed, then the real evidence would be that those problems never came up. I'm in a very happy relationship that will likely result in marriage, children, growing old together, etc. Before her, I seriously dated maybe 8 or 9 women in my life. One of them, my old girlfriend from high school, is one of my best friends. I wouldn't date her again, but if I had to pick someone to raise a child with in an emergency or something, I'd trust her deeply with the responsibility. Another, an ex from my 20s, I would straight up try dating again if we were both single. The rest? I am mostly thankful they're not in my life anymore, and or happy for them and where they ended up. For the one I would try dating again, yeah, I can find myself longing for her, usually if things aren't going great at home. There are unique things I miss from that relationship, and maturity I have now that would have really served me in that relationship. There's just a reality where it truly could have worked, and it's kind of painful to confront. But I think it's also a nice safe place in my mind, an idealized version of going back in time and being 25 again. That's a kind of fantasy relationship with a fake person that can get in the way of real intimacy, and I think a lot of people can have something similar. There's one girl that when I met my wife I had a crush on for like 2 years previous, but she was with someone. Right as I started seeing my wife, she ended up being single, and she reached out and I turned her down. No regrets. Haven't talked to her in ages, but she's married with a kid now. I've built a great life with my wife with 2 kids. There's always a part of me that's like, what if? But I can't imagine my life being better. I'm happily married. My wife and I have 2 wonderful kids. We own a house. I have a good career. Despite all this, I am haunted by 2 distant past relationships. My first GF in HS when I was 14 years old, and a girl I had a devastating crush on in college, age 20. Now I'm 41 and I still think about them all the time, to the point of chronic depression and anxiety. I have no idea why my brain can't just flush them out like healthy-minded people are able to do with their failed relationships. I'm on meds, I've had plenty of therapy, etc. If I could get rid of all thought of them forever, I would be very grateful. But even if I could somehow shut them out of my mind during waking hours, I regularly have dreams and nightmares about them. I have looked online, and this does not seem to be a common problem where there are lots of resources and info. It's been decades with no meaningful improvement, so realistically, I am expecting it to continue indefinitely.